So good morning, Cityside, and welcome to all the people who are online. There's a nice little chat going on out there. So I'm going to begin with a story, and it's a story about a high jumper named Dick Fosbury. Maybe you've heard of him. And he was this tall, lanky, geeky guy, and people made fun of him because he looked so terrible when he was high jumping. And you know, at that time, the Russians really dominated the sport, and they said he was an aberration, the way he jumped. But he was a scientist and an engineering student, and he said, you know, the way that we jump over this high jump, it doesn't make any sense because we're not using the law of physics. So he started to try some different things, and one of the things he tried was to go over backwards. He called it the Fosbury flop, and people were making fun of him, but he somehow made the Olympic team. He placed last, but he still got his berth on the team. And at the Mexico Olympics in 1968, he made the final round. There were 5 people. And guess what? He won with his Fosbury flop. And I love this story because he's a great example of someone who was listening to this inner nudge, and he decided to follow it in spite of the fact that people made fun of him. He just didn't listen to them. And nobody has won a high jump without going over the bar backwards since that time. It changed the sport. So we all have something essential to offer, just like he did. It might be small, it might be big, but I like to think about it that we're part of this divine symphony, and we each have a part to play in the divine symphony. And my intention today is to inspire you to embrace yours, to really, get in touch with what is essential within you and to embrace that. And my second intention is to really encourage you to get into the flow of your life and to know that the universe has a plan for your life, which is already unfolding. If you trust it, your life is flowing already. And so let's start with a few concepts. This month, people have been talking about this idea about life, your gift, giving, receiving, all of that. And as many people have said, it starts with us surrendering to the divine. That's where it begins. But we resist that, right? And the reason we resist it is because we want to direct the outcome. We want to tell the universe how it's going to be. And in his book, The Universe Always Has a Plan, Matt Kahn talks about how we need to evolve in our understanding of the law of attraction and how it relates to time. So he shares, while there is a law of attraction, it's essential to understand it from a heart-centered perspective. I love that. In the old paradigm, the antiquated way of teaching it, it felt exciting, but it didn't quite amount to bringing you the thing you were eager to manifest. And this is because in the old paradigm, you were in resistance to time. You were trying to create something that didn't exist now. And from the soul's perspective, the law of attraction is a chance to say, I accept that my desire confirms what I want and that something's waiting for me. And I acknowledge that my desire is a sneak preview of where my life is going. So why is time important? Because everything in life is about right timing, right? Through time, through this dimension of time, you're preparing to receive at a higher level by cultivating your own maturity and your own worthiness for what you want. And our spirit is smarter than we are, right? But you ever hear the stories about people winning the lottery and then they spend all the money? It's sort of like that is kind of what he's talking about. Like sometimes you want something, but you're not really quite ready to receive it. You know what I'm talking about? And so, if the universe has to give you what you want, but it does it in a way that complements and continues your rate of expansion. And this is why everything happens over time. I like to call it divine timing. And my practitioner talks to me a lot about waiting on the Lord. And if you don't like the word Lord because it sounds too old-fashioned, call it whatever you like, waiting on spirit, waiting on the universe. But to do that, we have to trust. Trust is foundational to the whole thing. And giving and receiving is all about trusting. We have to trust that the universe is going to provide for us. We have to trust that we're going to be safe. We have to trust that these spiritual principles we practice here, that they work. And how do we build trust? We practice, we affirm, we focus on where we're going, not on what's missing, right? We need to look at what we already have, not what we don't have. And we also look forward without criticizing ourselves. It's really easy to say, okay, this is where I am right now, but look, I haven't gone very far. Shouldn't I be farther than this by now? And so then we get really focused on like, well, what did I do wrong? Instead of saying, okay, I'm going to give myself credit for how I have progressed, right? I can see the evidence that this is working in my life, but I keep my focus on where I'm going. Mother Teresa told Lynn Twist that she never worried about having enough money because God always provided exactly what she needed, exactly when she needed it. And I think that's great advice, but we don't always trust, right? We're kind of like, God, here's my memo about what I want. And then we keep texting God. God, did you get my memo? Did you get my memo? Did you forget that I prayed about this? We just keep like, we don't let go because we're not trusting the flow of it. But, you know, Ernest Holmes taught when you say a prayer, it's complete unto itself. Release it, let it go, don't worry about it. But when we worry, we're coming from lack. We don't believe it's possible. And it also, you know, this whole idea of seeing what's present also makes me think about the parable of the loaves and the fishes. And I can't remember how many loaves and fishes there were. I'm sorry, I didn't look it up. But, you know, you think about it, Jesus had, you know, I think it was, how many was it? Okay, 5 loaves and 2 fishes for a crowd of 30,000 or whatever, the thousands. And so what did he do? He stood and he blessed what he already had. And then we could mentally try to say, well, then like just more people came, they gave him more food, but he wasn't worried. He knew that there would be a bounty, there would be an abundance. He blessed what was already present. And, you know, as I was preparing this, it's funny, we were at my brother's yesterday, and my sister-in-law has been Lutheran for a long time, and, you know, the Lutheran church she's in, the stance that they have on some of the current events, you know, she's just struggling with it. She's like, I'm not going to go to the church there anymore. So I'm prepping my talk, and I'm like, you know, I just want to be clear. I'm not saying it's all good all the time in America right now, because we're in a very negative conversation as a country, right? And I think that we're focused on what's absent. We're focused on what's wrong constantly. And we're seeing a lot of bad behavior right now. I mean, you know, I could go down a tangent about why no one should have guns anymore after the last few weeks, right? But, you know, for me, spiritually, I have to stay in where do I want to see things. So if you feel called to work on the issues that are happening now in the world, just listen to my words that way, right? Like, what's your role? If this speaks to your heart, what is your role? What is the essential part of you that you want to offer to shift things in our country, right? Not just like, oh, I got to go manifest for myself, but it's like, you know, take it a step deeper. Like, what am I really here to do? And so I'm going to pivot back to my talk now. So let's talk about timing again. You know, what do we do? I used to call it baking in the oven, right? When you have something that's trying to emerge in your life, but it's not quite done yet, what do we do then? We can be so impatient, right? We can give in to our anxiety, like, oh my God, this is not going to work out for me. Instead of saying, no, it's baking. Can I just be curious right now about what's trying to happen? Not grip, not grasp, not claw, but just sort of wonder, like, oh, I wonder where I'm going right now. You know, your life is consciousness evolving, right? Your consciousness is evolving. I don't know if you can look back on your spiritual journey and see that, but I can do that with mine. But you need to be ready for where you're going, right? And so, you know, we know it's not going to be instantaneous, and that's part of the gift, right? Like the journey of growing. You know, I think about my change out of corporate life, which I'm still kind of shocked I did all these many years later. But I think back on that, and I think that was one of the happiest times in my life, besides my, like, I'm free, I am free, and you're also unemployed. But I gave myself permission to just explore in a way that I had never done before in my life. I kind of had a plan, which was that I could, I had to live within a certain amount of money and whatever, but I loved that period of my life because I was just open. I spent a lot of time with my family when my great nephew was little. And I looked at a lot of things, and it evolved over time. It continues to evolve. I got opportunities to help some companies, and someone said, hey, you should do Vistage. Then I was tired of not making money. Then I decided to go work for a consulting firm for a while, still do Vistage. But then I said, okay, I get serious about this. My point is just like we're all evolving all the time, right? We're getting information as we go. And I have to say, like, now I look and go, it was so obvious that I'm doing the work I'm supposed to be doing, but it wasn't obvious to me in the moment. And that's how our consciousness evolves. Who do I need to become for where my life is going? How do I need to be different? Because we're never done evolving. It'd be great if we were, but life would get boring, right? Have you ever had the experience, or maybe someone who's had the experience, they achieve a great goal, and then they're kind of bored and unhappy, and they're like, what now? Like, we're meant to always be growing and evolving, and it doesn't mean it has to be a big thing. It could just be like, wow, something is speaking to me, like I want to learn to cook better. That's one of my goals. But maybe it's that art speaks to you or music speaks to you, and you've never given any room for the expression of that in your life. It doesn't have to be like I'm going out to conquer the world. It can be just revealing more of what your spirit wants. And sometimes we do get tested in the big things. I don't believe like it's a punishing God out there. We just don't teach that here. But sometimes we kind of get like a little test to see, like, are you serious about what you're doing? Like, something gets thrown in your path and it throws you off. But the test is there to strengthen your faith. It's not a sign that you don't deserve it. It's not a sign that it's not going to happen. It's just there to check, like, are you serious about this? There's a story that Tasha tells in her book, Tasha, who wrote our book, Tasha Silver, and she said, there was a Zen monk, and he sent a group of students out to build a bridge. And then when they were done building the bridge, he jumped on it hard several times to see if it would stand, right? And I think life does that to us a little bit. Like, right, sometimes the bridge gets jumped on a little bit, like, are you really serious about this? But the thing about it is that it also causes us to go within and check ourselves. Like Tasha Silver says, she herself, when that happens, she recognizes whether she's really serious about what she's calling in or if she's just sort of bypassing in an it's all good way. And we can all do that, right? Like we can be sort of half-hearted in our intent, and then we get tested, and then we have to really look at ourselves and say, am I really serious about this, right? And if we're serious, then maybe sometimes we got to shift. But in our impatience, we want things to be fast. Our ego wants everything to be fast. Like, I want it now. But I have found that decisions make themselves when the timing is right. Have you ever had that experience? Like, you're struggling, you're trying to make a decision, and you just like, there's just nothing there. You just can't feel what you should do. Has anyone ever had that experience besides me? Right. And so the wisdom is, don't decide yet then. If you don't know yet, it's not time. And it's okay to not know, right? But we live in a culture that tells you you're always supposed to know everything all the time, but it's not true, right? And I've seen that in my own life where I was just like, okay, I really don't know. That was true when I left my corporate job. I really don't know what I want to do. I went on some job interviews that I was extremely half-hearted about, And one of them, they voted on whether I was going to get the job, and I got 9 yeses and 1 no, so I didn't get the job. And I'm like, thank God I didn't get that job. I would have hated that job, right? But the universe is smarter than I am about what's good for my life, and I just have to slow down and listen. So like doors that don't open for us, have you ever had a door not open that you really wanted to open in your life? You know, that means they're not for us. But what do we try to do? We try to beat the door down with a bat, right? Let me in, I want to get in here, instead of saying, that door is closed. I wonder why that door is closed. Maybe there's some bigger wisdom happening here, that's not a path that I am meant to go down, right? And we have to trust that. Like, if it flows, it's for us. If it doesn't flow, it's not for us. Got a couple head shakes there. And you know this expression, rejection is God's protection. Have you ever heard that one before? Rejection is God's protection. Sometimes the things that don't work out for us are absolutely the best for us in the long run. So I want to give you a couple of reframes just to use during the week, just some questions that you can ask yourself. And the first one is a simple question, and this inspiration comes from a book I read by Greg McKeown. It's called Effortless, and he wrote another book called Essentialism, which is also excellent. But he asks this question, what if it could be easy? We believe things have to be hard. We believe we have to work for everything. I am the queen of this. You know, Linda's probably in the back row going, yeah, she is. But what if it could be easy? What if it could just flow? You know, what would make it easier? I've been really, for myself, asking myself this question. Like, I realized I was just plugged in all the time. And that was affecting my state of mind, right? I'd get up in the morning. I'd do the Wordle. Then I'd meditate, then I'd walk Ollie. But then later in the day, I'm like, okay, I haven't done the spelling bee. I have to be a genius in the spelling bee, right? And then I'd be obsessed. Ask Rich, he'll tell you. He'd be like, are you still doing that spelling bee? I'm like, I am. But even with Facebook, like, I'm just not on social media much anymore because I realized, like, I was sucking all the space out of my life with these things. And that if I just gave myself some space in the morning, my life felt easier. And so just being in this question, like, what would make it easier? And, you know, simple things too, like planning ahead, you know, just things that would make it more spacious. Asking for help, what a novel idea. But when we turn things over to Spirit and keep our mind open to things being easier, to things flowing, they can shift. You know, another great reframing question that I love is, what else is possible? You know, we can get so fixed in believing that a certain path is the right path, or a certain thing, it's like it's just fixed. It feels fixed to us. And we got to ask ourselves, what else is possible? I had something happen this week. John will know this because he's prayed with me 700 times about this. I took over this group in Indiana a couple years ago from a guy who was retiring in my Vistage work, and I've just kind of struggled with it. And I keep being like, how do I get rid of this? Blah, blah, blah. So this week, I was talking to a guy who's in South Bend, and he's like, oh, I don't know why you don't have a group over here. And then I got a new idea. I'm like, I could move my group to South Bend. I'm like, it's really close to our house in Michigan. It would make it easier. Like, why didn't I ever think about that? But in my own frame of mind, I just didn't see that anything else was possible other than I was fixed. So the path is always unfolding. Like, wherever your life is now, that's not where it's going to be forever. Spirit has a way of moving things forward. And I want to tell you about one of my friends, because this is super exciting, and it's a great illustration of embracing what's essential in you. So my friend Jody Wellman, she used to live in the same building as I did over in the West Loop, my old building. And she also happened to be a Vistage chair at that time. And she's the nicest lady. I'd come home, she would have baked like some delicious thing for me, and she'd leave it in the lobby, gluten-free, dairy-free, corn-free, everything free, but it still tasted good. And I'd be like, wow. So Jody didn't love being a Vistage chair because she didn't like, how we have to bring in business and all that kind of stuff. And so she went off and she got into business with another guy who was really an established, person who did organizational development, and she did that for a while, but then inside of her there was just this little nudge that kept happening, and she decided, well, I'm going to get a positive psychology degree, and she did that at whatever the school is in Pennsylvania. I think it's University of Pennsylvania or something that has a good positive psychology program. And she said, you know what, I'm going to leave this partnership I joined, and I'm going to start my own company, and I'm going to call it 4,000 Mondays. And she was inspired by the fact that, she had lost her mom as a reasonably young person, and, her mom, I don't know exactly what happened with her mom, but her mom's life was cut short. And she said, I just want to be in the energy of really being alive, really being vibrant. So she started her own company. And it's really focused on living your life, living your life. So she gave a TED Talk at, where did she give it? Brigham Young? Something like that, Brigham Young, doesn't matter. But her talk was about her philosophy. She has over 1 million views. Isn't that incredible? Now, she didn't start out to say, I'm going to give a TED Talk and I'm going to have over 1 million views. She just went and gave a really great, perfect TED Talk. And because she was talking about really living your life, about what is essential to you, then people resonated with her message. So look her up, Jody Wellman, Jodi. But she was also in the question, what else is possible for me, right? What next step could I take that moves me toward a greater experience of what is essential, what my spirit wants to express? Jesus said, I came that you might have life and have it more abundantly, right? Abundantly. And that doesn't just mean things. Life more abundantly means you have a greater experience of your spirit, that which brings you joy. And when you're happy, right? When you're happy, you can feel it. It's just this good feeling in the middle. And on the other side of that, when you're not happy, right? When you don't feel good because you sort of have that icky whatever feeling, but we rationalize away the icky thing, or we let other people tell us, what that means, instead of just trusting that we have this intuition within ourselves already that is speaking to us about what we want, right? And what wants to express through us. And so it's not about your ego's idea about your life, because that's all up here, right? It's about your spirit's idea of your life. So embrace playfulness. It doesn't matter how fast you get there. What matters is the journey that you're on, because honestly, that's the fun part, is the journey. And it's also where we transform. So say to your spirit, take this over and do this through me. If you want me to do it through me. Show me. Right? Just show me what you want me to do. And if God is our source, as Judy read to us, if God is our source, God can use anything to sustain us. It's not our job. It's not our idea. I think about my friend Maggie Gauthier, who I was in prac training with, and I've told this story before, but she wanted her own house with a porch. Someone gave her one free to live in. Right? And she's like, but I want my own house. I'm like, you have your own house. It was free. Right? So we don't know what can happen, but we follow the thread of inner guidance. When we have an intuition, we listen to it. And we need to cultivate our confidence in ourselves as we do that, because often we hold ourselves back. Because we don't have confidence in ourselves sometimes. We can really get into this, who am I to do this thing? Instead of saying, nope, the divine gave me this idea. I'm going to follow it, right? It wasn't even my idea. It's the inspiration. I'm looking at Greg, musicians, follow the lead of the inspiration of the creativity. That's the invitation for everyone. And we're co-creating with Spirit, so our job is to make the offering. Your life is your offering. It is the gift that you are offering the world. And we can do this through our practice, too. We can just remind ourselves constantly, like, if you want me to do this, please open the way. Help me to be patient. Help me to let this reveal itself to me. Help me to see what's already present here now. You know, so often when we're worried, we don't even see what's already present. So the only journey is the one within. Rainer Marie Wilke said that. And so the expression of what is essential in you begins with the inner journey. So let your inner journey reveal the outer. And having an abundant life, and whatever your expression of is of that, whether it's your creativity, your work, your money, your relationships, all of it starts with trust. It all starts with trust. Like, I trust that the universe is working on my behalf. Show me. I trust. Show me. And remind yourself to ask the question, what else is possible? I dwell in possibility. It doesn't say I dwell in impossibility. I dwell in possibility. Repeat that after me. I dwell in possibility. One more time, a little louder. I dwell in possibility. When you say yes, God takes over. Spirit takes over, Rich. That's our joke at home. So I say, God bless you. He said, you mean Spirit bless you? So let's take this into prayer. Come on up, Greg. When you say yes, God takes over. So I just invite you to turn within with me. And just to sense into this presence and power. This presence which is never an absence, this inner knowing, this inner connection within you, which is love, grace, possibility, ease, flow. And I know that I am one with this. And I know that each person hearing my words is one with this divine flow, this divine possibility, this divine grace, which always and everywhere is happening. So from this place of oneness, I just declare for each and every one of us that we are open to our lives evolving. I know for each and every one of us that we consciously make our very life the gift to the universe, to the world, to spirit. And I just know that we're courageous in doing this. We are courageous in moving forward, trusting that God's got us, trusting that all is well, trusting that the way will appear. I say yes to this on all our behalfs. And I'm just so grateful for each and every person hearing my words. I'm so grateful for the beautiful, essential expression that is you. I'm so grateful that more and more all the time that is fully coming out into the world for the world to see. And I'm so grateful to know that you are fully supported by Spirit in each and every moment. I say yes to this for all of us, and I'm grateful. And with so much gratitude, I say, and so it is. Amen.